A+ലേക്കുള്ള വഴി ഇനി തനിയെ തുറക്കാം. Subscribe to the ENCLAPS channel. Ring the bell button and open success. It's that easy.
Hello. We were discussing metallurgy, right? And what do you mean by metallurgy? Yes, metallurgy involves all the processes leading to the separation of a pure metal from its ore. And this process of metallurgy involves 3 steps. The first step is the concentration of ores. Second step is the extraction of metal from concentrated ore. And the third step is the refining of metals. So today we are going to discuss in detail about each of these steps. We said that the first step is the concentration of ores. The process of removing the impurities from the ore obtained from the earth crust is termed as the concentration of ore. And these impurities are generally known by the name gangue. Depending on the nature of the ore and the impurities, there are different methods of concentration, and they are hydraulic washing or levitation, froth floatation, magnetic separation and leaching. So there are mainly 4 methods like this for the concentration of the ores. So now we are going to discuss each one of these methods in detail. The first method is levitation or hydraulic washing. When the impurities are lighter and the ore particles are heavier, the lighter impurities are removed by washing in a current of water. This is actually what happened in hydraulic washing. For example, the concentration of oxide ores, concentration of ores of gold are usually done by this hydraulic washing. In our daily life itself, we can see that lighter particles generally flow along with water. This is actually what happened here also. Here, the crushed ore is allowed to pass through a stream of running water. As a result, the lighter particles of the gangue wash away in the running water. The heavier metal particles settle down and can be separated easily. The difference in weight between the gangue and the metal is actually utilized here. We can use this method for oxide ores and the ores that contain tin, lead and gold, since they are relatively heavier. Is it clear? Good. Now we can discuss about the second method for the concentration of ore, that is froth flotation. This process is used when the impurities are heavier and the ore particles are lighter. The sulfide ores are usually concentrated by this method. Here, the mixture of crushed ore with water and pine oil are made, and rotating paddle will then agitate that mixture and then introduce air into it. As a result, a froth will form and it will rise to the top. This froth will contain the mineral particles which can be separated now, and the impurity will settle down at the bottom. Is it clear? Okay. Now we can discuss about the third method, that is magnetic separation. If either the ore or the impurity has magnetic nature, the concentration is done by this method. This method can be used for the concentration of magnetite, that is the ore of iron, and also to separate iron tungstate, which is the magnetic impurity, from the non-magnetic ore of tin-tinstone. Okay. Here we place the powdered ore on the roller belt. One belt of this roller is a magnet. So the magnetic material attracted to the metal belt and stays on the belt. And the non-magnetic material, which is either the metal or gangue, will fall in a heap from the belt. The iron ores and the manganese ores are the main ores for which we use the magnetic separation. Next, the fourth method is leaching. Here, on adding the ore to a suitable solution, a chemical reaction takes place and the ore dissolves. The insoluble impurities are filtered off. The pure ore is separated from the filtrate by a chemical reaction. This is actually what happened in leaching. Bauxite, the ore of aluminium, is concentrated by this method. So now we have discussed 4 methods for the concentration of ores, and it is based on the nature of impurity or the gangue that present in the ore, a suitable method is selected. If the density of the impurity is lower compared to the ore, then hydraulic washing is preferred. And if the density of the ore is lower compared to impurity, then froth flotation method is selected. If either the ore or the impurity have a magnetic behavior, then the magnetic separation is selected. And if the ore is soluble in any solvent, then leaching is adopted. So now, do you got a clear idea about the different methods used for the concentration of the ores? If so, now we are going to do an activity based on this. Certain properties of some metallic ores and the impurities present in them are given in the table. We have to identify the suitable method of concentration in each case. In the first example, the property of the ore is given as high density and the property of impurity is given as low density. So, in this type of conditions, the method used is hydraulic washing. In the second example, it is given that the ores have magnetic in nature and the impurities are non-magnetic in nature. So, in these situations where either the ore or the impurity is magnetic, the method adopted is magnetic separation. In the third example, it is given that the ores are lighter sulfide ores and the impurities have higher density. In these conditions, the method opted is froth flotation. In the fourth example, it is given that the aluminum ores are dissolved in a solution while the impurities are insoluble in the same solution. So, the suitable method in this case is leaching. So, now our table is completed. So, you got a clear idea about how to determine the suitable method for the concentration of the ores? Okay, now we can do one more activity. Some ores are given in the table and we have to find out the suitable method of concentration. The first ore is tungsten. It is an ore of tin and the method used for the concentration is magnetic separation. Next example is bauxite. We already discussed that the method used to separate this aluminum or bauxite is leaching. Then the third example is zinc blende. It is an ore of zinc. Since the impurity is denser than the ore, the method used here is froth flotation. So now, do you got a clear idea about the different methods for the concentration of the ores?
3 ലക്ഷത്തിലേറെ വരുന്ന ചോദ്യോത്തരങ്ങൾ ഏറ്റവും കുറഞ്ഞ ചിലവിൽ സ്വന്തമാക്കുവാൻ ഉടൻ തന്നെ ഡൗൺലോഡ് ചെയ്യൂ ENCLAPS the Learning App.